Welcome to the Joy of Sunflowers podcast. We release podcasts here, in part and in full, on the Joy of Sunflowers website. The Joy of Sunflowers podcast is about sisterhood through infertility and pregnancy loss. We cover a range of topics including fertility, pregnancy after loss, and so much more. I speak with a range of people, including wellness professionals, medical experts, and beautiful mamas. The aim of this podcast is to bring you information and experiences that will validate and equip you for whatever season you find yourself in right now. Hi, Sarah. Welcome to the Joy of Sunflowers. Thank you so much for joining me. Please introduce yourself a little bit more to everyone.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on and giving me a chance to share my story with you. I really appreciate it. I always love getting a chance to talk about my daughter and sharing my story to help other people. So I am 35 and I am from Texas in the United States, but I live in Georgia now. Forgot I live in Georgia now. I lived in Texas my whole life and we moved to Georgia 2 years ago. So now we're in Georgia. I have 3 living kids and I've had 3 losses. I've had a miscarriage, a chemical pregnancy, and a 32-week stillbirth of my daughter, Jasmine. And then we also went through infertility. I have PCOS, so we did fertility treatment for some of our pregnancies, and that's kind of the big points about me.
Yeah, gosh, three in heaven and 3 here on earth. That's Well, if you think they're in heaven, I don't know. That was like
yes,
yeah. Sorry.
No, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, I always just say heaven because that's where I believe mine are. So it's like,
yeah, I do. That's one of the things that keeps me going, knowing that I'll see them again someday. So it's a nice thing to think about.
It is. Okay, so let's start from like the very beginning. So did you always know you wanted to have kids, or was it something that, you sort of came to later?
So at first I kind of thought I did not want to have kids when I was younger. I wasn't one of those, like, I always want to be a mom type people. I, had other things I wanted to do. And then it kind of hit me out of nowhere. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need a baby right now. It just like, I don't know. And I was still young enough. I was like, in my early 20s, and I had met my now husband, and I had actually been diagnosed with PCOS when I was 16. They kind of just put me on birth control, didn't really tell me much about it. They're just like, come back when you want to get pregnant. I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to get pregnant right now. So I didn't think much of it, but I always kind of had it in the back of my mind that I might have trouble getting pregnant because I wasn't having regular periods, and, but I didn't worry about it until my husband and I were ready to try for kids. And then I came off of birth control and nothing happened, didn't have any cycles, didn't, and that's really frustrating because you don't even get a chance to try for pregnancy when you aren't ovulating. So that was very frustrating. And then
you kind of need periods to.
I know, it's like the one thing that, you're supposed to have as a woman, and my body was like, nope, we're not doing it. So yeah, that was fun. So we met with a fertility doctor, and I also started doing acupuncture. Acupuncture did amazing things for my cycles. Like, it regulated my cycles when I had not had regular cycles. And I was really surprised because, everybody thinks like acupuncture, like, okay, I'll give it a try. But no, it was amazing. And I fully credit it to helping me with my pregnancies.
Yeah, no, I spoke to a lady about acupuncture. I'd always seen it as like a if you have back pain or something.
Right.
And she was like, no, it regulated me. And she's like, she now does it for ladies. She actually gives ladies.
Oh, that's amazing.
Acupuncture. And I was just like, cool. So having you say this, like, it's just that reaffirming. And I'll link her interview below as well, so people can kind of go on to her after. But yeah, she sort of goes more in depth into the process and how there's other ways you can do it if you don't like needles. There's like baby needles. But
yeah, I'm not a big needle person, but I mean, at first I was just like, this is weird. but the more you do it, like, it's not a big deal. They don't really hurt. And going through fertility treatment, I mean, I had bigger needles I had to give myself shots. So those needles were like nothing. And I got to the point where I could sleep like after she put the needles in. Like it's very relaxing. And yeah, like the first time it's just weird. You're like, what is happening? But then after that, no, I really liked it.
So you were already going through treatment, and then you sort of had your acupuncture as well. So it wasn't a case of like, oh, needles everywhere. It was sort of,
Right. And we started off just with like Clomid, which I didn't respond to. And then we stepped up to letrozole, and then I did ovulate with that, but it didn't work. But then I got pregnant on my own the cycle after that. And then I had my first living son. So he's about to be 9 actually, which is crazy to me. And then about 2 years or so after he was born, we decided we were going to try for a second baby. I had had a chemical pregnancy on my own, like in one of the cycles there after we had started trying. And then we went back to fertility treatment. I had a couple of failed cycles, and then I had a cycle that worked, but it ended in a miscarriage. And then I got pregnant a couple months later on my own, again, after a failed treatment with my daughter, Jasmine. That pregnancy was, it was kind of a difficult pregnancy. We found out about her diagnosis of, she had CDH, which is a congenital diaphragmatic hernia. It means there's a hole in her diaphragm because it didn't properly form. So it allows all the other organs to push up like into her chest cavity with her lungs, and then it like pushes everything over, so it like her lungs can't develop. So we found out about that at our 13-week ultrasound, so pretty early. And then I mean, it's like a whole long story, so I don't know like how much in detail you want me to go, but
yeah, go into it if you're comfortable, because it's part of your story, and there are women who possibly are going through the same thing right now. So
okay, I can talk a lot, so that's I just wanted to be sure. So yeah, it was an MFM we were seeing at the time, the maternal fetal medicine doctor. And I mean, basically when she told us the diagnosis, she basically acted like there was like no hope for us. And she just kind of said, I've only seen maybe 1 or 2 cases of this, and it's pretty much a 50-50 chance that, she'll make it. And I got really no further information. I kind of asked her, like, what are my options? And she basically was kind of telling us that probably her being born and then doing like comfort care. But I refuse to accept this as being the only answer. So, of course, I go home and do my research on the internet, which can be both a good and a bad thing. But I found a lot of other people and some groups on Facebook that had CDH children. And they actually told me that there are specialists in various parts of the country that specialize in treating CDH babies, which my doctor had never told me. So I reached out to one of them, and we ended up meeting with him, and he told us, that there was pretty good odds that she would make it, that they basically have to do surgery pretty much right after they're born to repair the diaphragm, push everything back down to where it's supposed to be. But as we were about to leave our meeting with him, we had to do some testing there, and one of the tests that we had to do was a fetal MRI. And so the doctor called him after we had left our meeting and said that some of the lung tissue looked abnormal. So he's like, okay, it really seems like there's something else going on besides just the CDH. So he wanted me to get an amnio done. I had refused it at first because I didn't see the need for it. I was like, okay, we already know there's an issue. Like what else is it going to tell me? Well, that came back that she had mosaic trisomy 15, which is extremely rare. Really, the doctors couldn't tell me what that meant for her. With it being mosaic, if you're not familiar with mosaic, it's, some of the cells have that third copy of the gene, but not all of the cells have that copy. And so it's hard to know which cells in the body have it. So, all the cells in the heart could have it, but none in the brain, or, it just kind of there's so many variables that they just like, I don't really know what this will mean for her. And so I called, the specialist, and he's like, okay, this changes her odds of survival, but we don't know how it changes it. So, he said, we'll still treat you. And I was like, okay, thank God, So it was 32 weeks. We went to our regular MFM appointment, and she had started developing high drops. So she had the fluid in around her brain, around her heart, and then still in the lung. And so that I had actually switched MFMs because my other one made me mad. She was not being hopeful at all, and not letting me, like, she was basically discouraging me from having hope. And I'm like, this is like, let me have it, let me do what I need to do, even if you don't think it's the right thing. So anyways, I had switched to another doctor, and he was more of a like very matter of fact doctor. So he just kind of told it as it is. And he's like, well, you can either go to the hospital, deliver her now, and have a few minutes with her, or, you can wait and she'll probably be stillborn. And so I still refuse to accept that. Like, no, there has to be something that somebody can do. So I was desperately, trying to find somebody else that would help. Our specialist in Florida said, I can't help you now. And we had called another hospital in Houston. They had agreed to at least see us for testing the next weekend. But they said that since I had started feeling decreased movement, that I should go get a movement check. So we went in that Saturday morning. I remember my son had his birthday party that morning. We had an early birthday party because we were planning to relocate to Florida for the specialist. And when we went to the hospital, I knew before, I think you just know, like moms just know, you just have those feelings. And so that's where we learned that she was gone. And I'm like tearing up now.
Yeah, but you know what? She put up a good fight. That's,
She did.
32 weeks. That's a long time, especially when you have both of those conditions. Like, and you were, she was amazing to have fought that long and to have given you that long to have her in you, because, even just having one of those, it's amazing that she pushed through.
That's what I always said. I'm like, I know she's so strong, because most of the babies they said that have trisomy 15 don't even make it past, the first few weeks. So I know she was definitely strong. I think she takes after me in that aspect.
It's really it just boggles the mind when you're told those things. Like I never got a full diagnosis, but my third pregnancy, I have a healthy son now from that pregnancy, but I was told that he had Edwards syndrome, and I freaked out. Like I started looking it up, and I was like, oh my gosh, like they have no face. Like there's no face. And I said to my husband, I said, like, I'm freaking out. Like I'm terrified. I don't know what to do. And at the time I wasn't Christian, and I was just like, well, I think I'd have to abort because I have another child. I have two other children, and I can't put them through that. And I ended up going in, and we saw a face. We actually saw a face, and I was like, oh.
But it's so terrifying when you when you hear these things, and when you don't really know what that means for you.
No, and
it's kind of like
they don't explain it.
They don't.
And sometimes they give you that like sheet of paper that like has some explanation, but it's not enough.
No.
And you're like, okay, it's an abnormality, it's an extra something. Okay, but what does that mean?
And that's exactly how I left that appointment when we found out about the CDH. My mom was with me at the time, and we were both like, what just happened? What is this? What, like, I don't understand what this is, So it was, I didn't like that doctor. I was like, you give me no explanation, you give me no options, you give me no hope, you give me nothing. You told me bad news and then you do nothing.
Yeah. No, it's with that, you said you had a second you had a miscarriage the second time. What how early was that? Like when
It was pretty early. I mean, before, well, I was still seeing my reproductive endocrinologist, so I think I went in for an ultrasound around like 5 or 6 weeks for that early ultrasound. And we never saw a heartbeat or anything with this baby. They saw something in the uterus, but there wasn't a baby.
to like a
And
sound?
actually, yeah. And then I had actually that same day I started bleeding.
Oh.
So they were watching my my levels come down, but then my levels started rising again. And so they said, well, it could be ectopic or it could be retained tissue in the uterus. So I had to take a shot of methotrexate to get rid of whichever one it was. And then I had to wait 3 months to try again.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So gosh, that would have been, and you've had 3 different types of losses as well, which kind of
Yeah, and then the chemical pregnancy is one, they're so early, but you still is a loss. And,
it's a loss.
other people are like, well, you weren't far along. I'm like, yeah, but I still saw that positive test and I still got excited and, was excited to tell my husband and then lost the baby. And it's like,
Oh, it actually it irks me so much when people just go, oh, it was a chemical loss. It's like, okay, egg, sperm, egg meets sperm, baby. Doesn't matter how far along. Doesn't matter, like if those two things have met, life. Okay, that's how it
yep,
works.
that's how I feel.
Just, and I mean, if it wasn't like that, then we wouldn't feel the way we feel, after a so-called chemical loss.
Right.
It wouldn't feel the same because it does. Like you get the same emotions, you get the same like broken feeling. So
Exactly.
it's a loss. It's a pregnancy loss. Let's
It definitely is. Yes.
call it what it is, people. Chemical.
I know, I hate that.
We're all chemical. We're all cells. We're a clump of cells, all of us.
Exactly. We all started the same way.
Exactly. So moving through your journey, how did you sort of go after the stillborn?
So after that, we knew we wanted to try again. And we had to wait 6 months to try. And we went back to fertility treatment. Thankfully, first round of treatment this time, I did get pregnant. We had to add in like the injectable like follistim and stuff like that. But it worked. I got pregnant, had my rainbow baby. She is going to be 4 this year. And then fast forward to last year, I had a surprise pregnancy and had my pot of gold baby in December.
Yeah,
So now I have 3 living children.
I've been following your journey a little bit, and it gave so much hope, and just seeing your journey and seeing you share it, it was really nice. Like I really loved it. Yeah. One of the things that I really love about your page is find your rainbow. I told my husband about it and he was confused at first. And I was like, no, like it's one skirt, it's one rainbow, and it just goes around the world to all these women. And if you hold it, then loads of women have worn it before you who have gone through this. And I was like, and it goes around the world. And he's like, that's really lovely.
I will say now it has become more than one skirt because I had too many people interested. But it started out as just one.
Well, I feel privy to the information, and now everyone else knows. There's not just one skirt anymore. Okay, we had to branch out. There's too many.
Yeah, because right now, I have one in the UK, I have one in Australia, and then the US, and then one is in Peru right now.
Oh wow! So you have 4. Well, I might say, hey, put my hat in the ring.
You should. I'd love to have you.
Yeah, I'm 21 weeks right now, so I'll throw my hat in, wear a rainbow.
Yes, it's amazing. I just I wore it first with my rainbow daughter with my maternity pictures, and I was like, okay, well, it's just sitting here now, so what do I do with it? And then I had actually seen another story where somebody was doing something kind of similar, and so I was like, I'm just going to start my own because I have this, and it's just really grown from there. And now I think I'm over 220 stories shared, almost all 50 states, and then from Canada, the UK, Australia, and Peru.
Wow.
So I
Peru,
hope to
that's so
keep
random.
expanding.
Yeah. So random. But that's
Yeah.
cool.
And then, yeah, all the stories, I cry reading every story, knowing just what everybody's gone through. And, we may all have different stories, but we've all been through, the same emotions and the same loss experience, I guess, even though it happens differently for all of us.
You named your Instagram after Jasmine. How did that come about? Did you have an Instagram page before that and you renamed it, or how did that sort of happen?
So before I actually wasn't really on Instagram very much. And then I was like, okay, I need to like get on board here. Because I had actually started writing on my blog during the pregnancy with Jasmine about the things we were going through. And then I wrote about our loss and then after the loss. And I'm like, okay, I want to do more with this and I want to be able to put the stories out there. And so actually my original name was Life is Stupidly Unfair. And then I changed it to Journey for Jasmine because I wanted something that included her name. And, kind of with the skirt journeying around from people to person, that's how I kind of like came up with the name together. Plus, they both started with a J and I thought it sounded nice together.
Yep. Yeah, no, I like it. I like your original name too.
It's true.
It is. And when you've been through, what you've been through, like it's even more so, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I really hope you enjoyed the first part of this podcast. If you'd like to listen to the rest, please visit thejoyofsunflowers.com. Please note that all speakers, including experts and professionals, express information, views, and opinions that should not be used to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any medical conditions. If you have a medical issue, please consult a qualified professional. Speakers voice their own views, opinions, and conclusions, and they may not reflect the views, opinions, and conclusions of other speakers. Ella Rose, The Joy of Sunflowers, and its sponsors may not endorse all or any of the views, opinions, or conclusions expressed.